Hello folks, I am back, and the last live stream was me doing some crazy expanding foam decorations, and I tried to get that stuff off my skin. It didn't go very well. A bunch of you guys said, hey, use WD-40 or use baby oil. I tried like 3 different things, and like I told you, that stuff doesn't come off your skin. It's crazy nuts. Anyways, tonight's stream is going to be in-depth talk of sponge filters. And I know when a lot of you guys hear that, you're like, oh great, he's gonna talk about sponge filters again, you know? And I have a bunch of videos on sponge filters, and I wore gloves, by the way. Yeah, and no longer gloves. Yes, you're completely right. That wasn't 10 minutes. Yeah, dude, I was scrubbing my skin like crazy. I apologize. And I had to upload, and I grabbed a Mountain Dew, and my daughter is absolutely nuts. She's still awake. My wife brought her to one of those like children theme play parks where there's like ball pits, go out slides. My heart goes out to her because it's awesome she does that while I kind of do my own thing, and they had so much fun. But she's just jacked and won't go to sleep. Like I was saying, those sponge filters, I have tons of videos on sponge filters, and I'm going to do an in-depth talk / guide tonight because I'm getting so many questions every single day regarding sponge filters, because a lot of people watch my streams and they're like, hey Chris, I noticed that you use all sponge filters, but how is it possible that you're not doing water changes like you should be? And it's people are saying or Tech Turtle says, how are you doing tonight, Chris? How's it going? I'm doing great. I just did a cool live stream on some expanding foam, and it went really cool. So naturally, Locha says, I always enjoy your streams. Yes, thank you, sir. I'm gonna bring up the chat here on my computer. It took me a little while to kind of clean off my desk. It was absolutely a catastrophe. That expanding foam, I went up to my wife and I was like, do you have any baby oil to get this stuff off me? And she's like, what are you doing in the house? You know, like she wasn't happy about it. But what can you do? She knows I'm nuts. And it is what it is. I'm going to crack the Mountain Dew. It's on, guys. So, bringing up the chat here. Make sure my volume is muted. It's pretty sad. This is my Saturday night, but I absolutely love it. Okay, so first things first. Let's dive right into sponge filters, because I got a bunch of stuff here on my desk, and we're going to be walking through it. I have some different style of sponge filters, and a lot of people think that when you, sorry, I'm fixing the cam here. It drives me bananas. People think that there's only one sponge filter, and there's a lot of unknown knowledge in like this regarding the sponge filter industry, and everybody thinks this is the sponge filter you buy because it's $5 or $6, and Aquarium stores, this is pretty much all they sell across the nation, and this is kind of the go-to sponge filter, right? So it's like, this is a sponge filter. That's all you can really do. But that's not the truth. Literally, there is tons of different sponge filters, and this right here is the best sponge filter on the planet, in my opinion. And you can just tell, it's more porous, it's twice the price. This is like $5 or $6, depending on where you buy it. Sometimes your local fish stores will jack up the price a little bit. They'll make you pay like 14 bucks, which is probably like twice the amount of money. But local fish stores have to make money. Let's be honest. Support your local fish stores if you need one of these. These still have their uses in like 20-gallon tanks, or like breeder tanks, fry tanks, or not breeder tanks, fry tanks is what I meant. These are literally from a fish tank, so I'm dripping all over the place. This computer is just getting hatched, by the way. And I just lost the chat. Anyways, let's dive right into this. The difference between the sponge filters is really going to depend on what your use is. This is a great sponge filter for like a 30-gallon tank and anything below it, because this essentially is a much more porous foam, and this is a polishing pad, a polishing sponge filter. A lot of people don't know this. So it's like you're literally polishing the finer particulates in your water column. Oh, sorry, the Mountain Dew's starting to come up. Caleb Aquatic says, I shared it. Thank you, sir. I gotta bring this back up because I can't see the stream, and I'm only seeing it on the camera here. So, God, it feels really like weird right now, like nobody's on, or I don't know. Okay, here it is. Okay, I gotta get back into rhythm here. Yes, this is a polishing sponge, and what happens a lot of times that I found was these get clogged. So it's like, this is literally good for smaller aquariums, and they're cheaper. This is a good backup in fish tanks if you have like a canister. This works great as a backup, but if you're looking for more serious filtration, these sponge filters are where it's at. And I'm gonna throw a link in the description box. I wanna look up a price on these beasts because it kind of fluctuates. I swear that Amazon, like the sellers of these sponges, I sell so many of them that they actually emailed me one day and was just like, you sold out all of our sponges literally over the weekend, because I did a playlist of videos preaching about how good these sponge filters are. And I wanna get a up-to-date price essentially. So sponge filter, I'm just gonna have to search for it in Amazon, because and when you do a sponge filter search on eBay or Google, you're only gonna get these cheap ones, because these are the mainstream best sellers essentially that everyone buys and they don't think anything past it. But in reality, there's a lot better of ones, and even sometimes people buy, like the Hikari one is really popular right now. But essentially what Akari did, no offense to Akari, I love the brand, and but what they did is they essentially started, they bought a bunch of these and they put their name on it, and all of a sudden people are like, well, that's the Akari sponge, so it must be super good. Literally, these are just sponges, guys. If we're being completely honest, dozens of different brands make these sponges. What differentiates a sponge is just how porous it is. That is literally it. This is a 20 ppi porous, and that is pores per inch. So there's 20 pores per inch. Whereas this is probably like, if I were a guessing man, maybe like a lot. Actually, I can find it here. If I look up the Hikari ones, and they call them high density. They put it right in the title, so that should tell you. This is a high density, meaning it is a lot more pores per inch. And it could be like 50, it could be 80 pores per inch. The Hikari ones, essentially, they're really popular right now. You can get one of the larger ones, so it's essentially the same height as this sponge, except it's the higher density style. You can buy different sizes. It's $9.99 on Amazon. 2 of them, 18 bucks. All right, so what I want to do is I want to find the luster hydro sponges. These ones are, those are these ones, except they make different styles of them. And in order to get the more porous one, you have to buy the one that is over 80 gallons, because they label them by how many gallons they are. And this can be, even though I don't like how they phrase it, God, I keep dripping on my laptop like an idiot. Even though they phrase it as how many gallons it filters, I don't like that. They should phrase it as how many pores per inch, because it's more like, it's not a good way to categorize it essentially. And I'm looking at the one for 125 gallon, the Luster Hydro Sponge. That is what this is going to be as well. You get the same one if you buy the 80 gallon or the 125 gallon. Anything 80 gallons and above, you're going to get this much more lower pores per inch essentially. So essentially, I'm not gonna say essentially too many times. $15 for one of these. So that's almost double the price. All right, let's hit up the chat for a little bit here. All right, there's a bunch of people saying things. David says, do you use sponge filter by themselves or on your 6-foot tanks? I use sponge filters on their own. What I'll do for my 6-foot tanks that are heavily populated or have high bio loads is I throw 4 of these in there, and I run one of these active aqua pumps. And it's 4 outlets, and it's these are very powerful. I promise you, these are going to blow your mind. I get messages every week by people that are like, their mind is blown by what comes out of these, because this is essentially an aqua clear sponge. And it's what happened. One of the main differences with these sponges too is people ask me this. This is another question. What do you put air stones inside your sponge filters? Because that is another thing to look at. And these ones here, the regular polishing generic ones, don't take air stones. Yes, I have fit air stones in there, but what happens is you just connect your airline to there, and I'm gonna take this apart for you. It comes apart. I gotta get rid of some of these things, dude. This is getting chaotic. I got a notepad. It's soaked. My keyboard's wet. Ugh. I even squeezed them out. Don't think I'm a complete idiot. All right, so I'm taking it apart. Okay, so this is the internals of the sponge filter. So when you hook up that air tube, essentially, it goes through a little air line through there, and the air goes through there, and there's little diverters on the inside of here. You can't see them very well. See if I can point this light over a little better. Can you see that? There's little diverters in there, so you don't use an air stone. So bright, so bright. And what happens sometimes with these sponge filters is these little things clog, and the little diverters. And I bought this tool. This is a 3M bubble popper. I'm a super geek like this. 3M bubble poppers, and all it is a pointy object. And what I do is I go in there and I clean those things, because those get clogged as well. So that answers that. If you're going to use an air stone, and for the total noobs, an air stone, you buy them in bags. I'll throw a link in the description box once the video is uploaded. It is a little stone that you hook up to an airline. Hence, airline, hook it up. And this doesn't fit in there. There's no way to fit it in there, because it just doesn't fit in there, because this is a screen mesh. I could take it apart. I could try to put it in there, but it's just not gonna work. I've tried to DIY them in there. It just doesn't really work that great. But listen here. This is where this other sponge filter gets better. This sponge filter, the Beast, I'm gonna call it the Beast. I'm gonna reference it as the Beast. I'm gonna take it apart. These are built to put air stones inside. I'm happy. That's me smiling. And that is just an open tunnel. And what you do is you put the airline, set this down, it's designed for an airline. This goes in this intake tube, or outtake tube, whatever you want to call it, outlet tube, and we're going to put it together. Now it's hanging through there, and it literally just goes together like that. Put it together, and the air stone is inside there. And I tell you what, guys, even though these have like their own built-in air bubbler, how sponge filters work is they suck water in as the bubbles push out here, and it's being forced through. And they have figured out that the smaller the bubbles, the more water it pushes. So you're pushing more water. And I personally like the dense sponge filters, says Paul Inventory King. I don't know how, because I'm gonna argue with this. This is a healthy argument, because they do polish your water, but what happens is the outside layer gets clogged so fast. Like, it's not even like, if you notice, I would like to rip this apart, and what happens is, in my opinion / experience, the outside of it gets dirty. You can tell that's dirty. And once the outside of a polishing pad or a high density foam gets clogged, it's essentially pointless. And when enough positions or spots, locations on the foam gets clogged, it's clogged. Whereas this thing can't get clogged, and it's pumping so much water, it can't get clogged, because the particulate, I mean, it can get clogged, but it takes way longer. And just hear me out, guys. Try one of these in your tank. It's $14.95. Yes, it's double the price of the polishing pad. Just try it. That's all I ask. You try it. It's called the Luster Hydro Sponge Filter, and it filters, in the title, it's called Aquariums up to 125 gallons. On Amazon, it's a Prime, $14.46. Give it a try. Let me know personally in like 3 to 6 months. Message me and let me know what you think. Start cleaning this. When you go to clean it, I clean these depending on the tank. I try to clean these, if it's a less populated tank, once a month. And with the tanks with the sponge filters in here, I will change 2 every water change. Like every couple weeks or every week, I will squeeze out 2 of them. That way you leave 2 of them dirty. This is kind of a weird scenario because I have a lot more of them. But what I would do in a regular tank, I would squeeze it out once a month if you have like a 55, or maybe once every 3 weeks, because this is a high flow filter, and this is like an intake sponge. This is an intake sponge essentially on a sponge filter. Just, you got to hear me out. And what happens is, people always ask me, do you use air stones? Yes, I use air stones on these. This is like the best sponge filter on the planet. Airline. Do you use check valves, Chris? I don't use check valves. I have a video on that. I just don't like them. I swear to God, the check valves clog the airflow over time. Yes, you could change them. What I tend to do with a lot of my tanks is put the air pump on top of the tank, or I know that's not the best idea because if it falls in the tank, you're gonna zap your fish. But I try to get my air tanks higher than the tank. Maybe you set it on the back of the tank, on top of the hay on the back, whatever. You can use check valves. That's just my personal opinion. All right, let's hit up the chat. Let's hit up the chat, guys. Inventory King says sponge filters rock. All right, I'm gonna go right to the bottom because it's been a while. Do you have a link for the air pumps you use? Let me get you a link right now. And yes, it's the air pumps I swear by are these Active Aqua. They're not only they're super cheap. I've tested the power consumption versus outlet pressure, and these win all day long. What I do is I literally buy these and you hook them up. A lot of people get a big single pump, but I don't like that because what happens with single pumps is you have to sit there and deal with dials, and those little inline dials, regulators essentially is what they call them, and I just don't like them because you got to tune them every other day, because as the sponge filter gets less, as the sponge filters get more clogged, they have less intake pressure, and the pressures change like on a every couple day basis, and I just get sick of tuning them essentially. Let me find you the link for the air pump I use. It's an Active Aqua, and you can choose how many outlets you have, and it's a bestseller on Amazon. I'm not like recreating the wheel here. They're cheap, they're effective. I wish I own probably 30 of them, and I'm gonna put the link in the chat to the air pump. It is what it is. So what's going on, says Dan Morrow. Just my fish says, why may be better to recommend people to make their own. I do have a DIY sponge filter, but you know, long term, I am now finding that buying them is better, because this design, like, you cannot beat it, because when I DIY this, what I do is essentially buy the sponge in itself. I cut it up and put it on a piece of PVC, cut holes in it. It's not rocket science. Do you run a central air pump, Chris? No, I do not right now. I will be in the shop though with that many tanks. I didn't want to run pipes in this room, and I ran a bunch of the quad pumps, and I even have a couple of the 8 outlets. They sell them with 8 outlets, so it's a 12 watt. And if you're trying to figure it out, this is a 6 watt pump right here. So that is less. That's a little over 1 watt. It's like 1.2 watt, 1.3 watts per air outlet. Sorry, I'm getting geeky. What was I even talking about? I have no idea. That's great. All right, let's hit up the chat here, since I have no idea what I'm talking about anymore. Where did you see my fish, says Hunter? What is your favorite hang-on-back filter? My favorite hang-on-back filter is hands down the Marineland Penguin filters. They're one of the cheapest. What you do is you buy some of your DIY filter pad, and you throw this same pad in there. This pad is like the heart and soul of so many koi ponds. As soon as you get into like fish farms, you do some walkthroughs, the 20 PPI and the 10 and the 10 PPI are used so much, guys, because The heart and soul of filtration, mass filtration, is running water through a surface with a lot of surface area. And that's why sponges work so good, because it's like you could have it running against lava rock, you could have anything that's really porous, ceramics, any surface. A DIY background, you could put a power head pointed at a DIY rock background, that's gonna work as a filter. But these foams work that way, and any large scale filtration is just running massive amounts of water through porous mediums. So looks like we got some spam going on. Everyone just stay calm, guys, stay calm. All right. Palmer, Naturally Loaches says, Palmer, you better use sand in your store if you sell loaches, or I'm gonna be mad. On your profile pic, did you do a video on them? I don't know what you're talking about. Explain that, re-explain that. Do you think that sponge filters would be enough for goldfish? I think they would, because, guys, I consider this sponge filter, call me crazy, there's no scientific evidence to this. God, my nose is running and it's making it really hard to talk, I don't know why. I consider this sponge filter to be as powerful as an AquaClear 50. And maybe even an AquaClear 70. Is there a 70 series? And you're gonna think I'm crazy, but give this a try. By switching to this sponge filter, I doubled the amount of time I could do water changes, and this has been a lifesaver. Someone brought me to notice this sponge filter, and I don't remember who it was, because I'd like to shake their hand and give them some money, because they saved me so much time long term. Mr. B says, you keep saying essentially. Yeah, we need to get a counter in the corner. How many times I say essentially? I'm sure some troll will count how many times I say essentially and put it in the chat, and just to drive me bonkers, because trolls are so good at knowing what drives you bananas. I've heard this guy say that AquaClear 110 was his favorite like 100 times. Well, that guy, I can buy 3 Penguin filters, and I can have 3 filters for the price of a Penguin. Like, the Penguins win, and they have the bio wheel. There's no other filter that has the bio wheel. They don't have any evidence to how powerful the bio wheel is, and it's all hearsay, experience, opinion, and I am confident once those bio wheels, like if you have a Penguin 400, a beast of a filter, and you have the spray bars pointing on those bio wheels, and it's been running for like a year, those things are insanely powerful, and I've tested it to where I have known my nitrate levels. I have videos way back in the arsenal of keeping 2 Oscar fish in a 75-gallon tank. I didn't want to do it, and I had a Penguin 400 that had been running for years. The bio wheels were like, they had algae, they were covered in fungus, but the spray bars just sat there and made them spin, and it was so effective. People are saying the bio wheels stop all the time. Get a Penguin series. The Penguins have, I believe it's the Penguin, right? Have the spray bars. That makes it impossible for them to stop. Get the Penguin 200 or the Penguin 400. I'd rather have a Penguin 400 than an AquaClear 110, and it's half the price. If that means anything to you. I'm getting hot. My throat's being weird. If you're looking to use sponge in your penguins, I advise you cut up the sponges to the size. Would you like me to get you the links, as Hunter? Yes, that would be cool. Yes, that DIY sponge, I sell so many of them. I think Aquaneat makes the sponges. It's funny because like through a lot of my videos, I sell this stuff, and some of these manufacturers, they track where like the links are coming from, and like they reach out to me and they're like, dude, your videos. It's like, yeah, send me money or something, you know what I'm saying? I'm just kidding. But I just preach what I love. I really like this Active Aqua. So essentially, I keep saying that. For your sponge filter setup, give this pump a try. If you already have a pump, that's totally cool. I have dozens of different brands of pumps. Any pump works. You don't need a special pump for sponge filters. You don't need a special pump. I get that question all the time. What pump to use? It's not a special pump. Any pump works. Chris, what kind of airline do you use? Essentially, any airline works. I like the silicone stuff. I'm gonna throw a link to this in the description box. This is Deep Jungle, and silicone airline lasts a lot longer. The pliability of it is just, it's astronomically better than this clear stuff. Because what happens with this clear, actually this is a perfect case right here. See how that expanded over the, what happens is, God, I'm just Mr. Visual Aid today. What happens is the air stone sits in there, and you can just see that. Look at it, it'll fall out. That just falls right out. Demonstration. Of course it has to fall in a cup. This is what happens to regular airline. It gets all like swollen, it gets aged. This stuff's still so brittle that I can't even squeeze it. And it's, Ozzy Bosses, take a drink every time he says essentially. Yeah, that'd be a great drinking game. Here you go, here's the end. This has been on there for probably a month. And when I take it off, it's stuck like that. See that? This is regular airline. It works. I have it all over the fish store, or the fish room here. But this stuff is so pliable. Watch. I mean, granted, this is brand new. Let it zoom. Focus. See, it goes on there, and it's so pliable. I love it. I'll throw a link in the description box. This is, I mean, it's nothing special. You could literally search Amazon silicone airline tubing, or search airline tubing and look for the silicone stuff. A lot of times it's not the best seller. The best seller is usually the cheapest 50-foot roll, clear. Apologize. And then you get your sponge filter. Actually, you should probably get some check valves. Don't say as a, what's the saying? Get some check valves. I don't have any right now on me. I do in the closet. But throw a check valve in there if you want. I'm not a personally huge fan, but it is what it is. I've never had tanks flood like our back siphon through the airline. People have messaged me though saying they have. So, and I know Corey and Aquarium Co-op just had an outdoor tote backflow back siphon, and it drained the tote, which that was firsthand what happened. And I'm sure he's had like a dozen stories of it happening. And yeah, just use them. Then you connect your sponge filter. I'll take this apart. Okay, so when it comes to you in the box, this is what it comes to you looking like. These are all apart. And these are the pieces. And put them apart. You shouldn't need directions because you're a man and you're stupid. Or you're a girl, you're gonna read directions because you're smart. Then what you do, actually I'm gonna give you the visual of how it goes together. These go together like that, except this sponge goes in there. You close it with the sponge. Putting it together, take it apart, put the sponge on the bottom, the base, and then you run the airline through the top. See, there's a little spot where the airline goes through. God, look at this visual aidness. A lot of you subscribers are probably bored out of your mind because maybe you already own some of these and you already know how to use sponge filters. And this is answering questions. I'll be able to send people this link when you have questions on sponge filters. That's what I do with a lot of my videos. And then, or wait, I did it backwards. I apologize. This obviously goes out of the tank and connects to your air pump. The air stone has to go in the sponge filter. Sorry, that's bad. Then we're just going to put it together, and you'll feel the plastic pieces kind of click together. You'll feel them like smush. And yes, this moves up and down, but there's a screen in there to stop the air stone. And you what's cool is you can lift it up. When you're taking it out of your tank, you can lift it. And that's really nice. But when I put it back in the tank, I always try to get that air stone back down to the bottom because the air stone's at the bottom and then the bubbles go up, and the further down that is, I swear it's gonna push water better. I don't know that though. I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know that part. So then you can connect your check valve, and then you connect it to your air pump, and voila, you have a working sponge filter. And if you're wondering about the cheapo sponge filters that a lot of people use, and don't get me wrong, I will be using these because these are effective. Like in all my 20-gallon tanks, the wall full of 20 gallons, these are going to be used probably because they're cheaper. I can't afford to spend 15 bucks on 33 of these right now, and I'll probably be using these because you can get these on the Wish app for like $3, I think, or $2.50, which is ridiculous. Some people ask, do you use anti-clog air stones? You know, I don't, because I thought about it. I dug deep into this because it's a great idea, and I know Corey from Aquarium Co-op swears by them because, and I usually am on board. Corey's like one of my idols, and he's just full of knowledge. And here's the way I see it. Air stones, they're super cheap. You can get a bag of 10 for like $4 or $5. And the thing with anti-clog air stones, you got to take them out and clean them. And I figure by the time I take them out and clean it, I could be just putting in one of these air stones. And also the second argument that I have is that the bubbles aren't as small as when you use an air stone like this. These create small, tiny bubbles, and I found it to be just so effective, whereas those non-clog air stones, they have a little larger of bubble. And what else was I gonna say? God, I had a good thought there. It's just, they're cheap enough to where it just doesn't matter, and you don't know. An air stone could be good for 2 years, or it could be good for 2 weeks. You just really don't know. So I just play, and you're getting in there and cleaning the sponge filter anyways. No matter how you look at it, you're getting in there and cleaning the sponge filter. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to take it apart. I have more problems with these regular sponge filters than any, like, what happens is, like I told you, these things clog, or the filter itself clogs because it's a polishing pad. This clogs, and all of a sudden my nitrates are through the roof, and I'm like, what's going on? This filter looks fine. The sponge filter looks fine, but I go to clean it and it's really dirty, and it really depends. If I were to break it down and someone asked me which sponge filter should I buy, this one or this one, I would say, what fish do you keep? Are you keeping it to polish your water, or if it's like small fish? I would say you could get away with this, and if you're a cheap wad, buy one of these. Or if you want quality and much more biological filtration, this is where it's at, but it's more money. I've never heard of never clog air stones, says Hunter. Never heard of them clogging either. They do clog. I want to show you firsthand right now. I have one because it drives me bonkers. Let's take a look. Are you going to the Aquarium in Alberta? No, sorry. I'm just being honest. Here you go. These are 2 sponge filters. By the way, these are the ones we're talking about, the high flow ones. This is a pretty new air stone. See how much flow you're getting out of that right there? That's crazy. Get out of there, guys. Get out of there. Scat. Get out of here. And then this one has been running for quite some time, and it's way less airflow. So you're getting way less water gallons per hour through that sponge because of that air stone. See the difference? That's a pretty big, substantial, and granted, another variable could be how clogged that filter is. See how effective those things are? That is disgusting right there. Whereas this one might have a higher flow. I could switch the cam so it's a better view, but so hopefully that gives you an idea. So it does make a difference. And whereas I'm gonna change that tomorrow when I do maintenance, because it's Sunday, aquarium maintenance holiday, right? Your red devil's a beast, thank you, sir. So hopefully that helps answer the questions about sponge filters. I get so many of them, and it's cool that more people. It's funny because for the longest time, I was afraid to use sponge filters. I don't like adopting new things, you know? I'd hang on the backs on all my tanks, and it's like, how can you beat a hang on the back? It's a motorized pump. I gotta run water through a medium, like a media, essentially. You could also call it a medium. It could be a surface, what have you. And it's, until I tried it, because you gotta think, what are these fish farms using? And it's sponge filtration. It's just what it is, you know what I mean? Hello, like your show, it's not boring. Thank you. I did make a comment, and I made a couple comments wondering if these streams are boring, and A lot of people are commenting like, Chris, your streams aren't boring. Don't stop streaming. Even though streaming is kind of annoying for me because of the internet issues, I'm getting them down now. Huge shout out to Bob, my IT internet tech, local to me subscriber. Thank you very much. You saved my life. Well, not, yeah. God, I'm so weird with gas right now. The video quality looks good, man. Thank you. It's funny. I have a 4K camera, but it still streams in 720p. I've noticed a lot of the big channels have the same issue. I think you literally need like 500 meg internet on a wired connection to be able to stream in 4K. You know what I mean? Like, I've tried everything. Brian's Aquatics 499 super chat. Thank you, sir. You didn't put anything, but it is what it is. Hunter says, remember, folks, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, Hunter. Quincy says, just got my first sponge filter in the mail. I'm gonna have to rewatch this after. Yes, I'm guessing you bought this sponge filter. They're cheap. You're thinking there's not much difference. It's they're cheap. I mean, a lot of people just, the term sponge filter, like, I go to the fish store and people ask me like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a sponge filter. Like, everybody categorizes a sponge filter as this, like, just sponge filters. They're all the same, and that's not the reality. They're all very, very different. And, well, not very different, but there are different ones for different scenarios. And I absolutely am so happy that I have found the High Flow by Hydro. I wish a company would make a cheaper version of this, because what you could do is buy these. They're a lot cheaper, but I've thought about just buying the foam insert, but there's not a lot of places. Like, there's like 2 places to find these. The Hydro manufacturer that sells these sponges to buy the entire sponge, they sell a replacement for like $10, which it's really close. It wouldn't be worth it. And then Swiss Tropical sells them. There's one website, SwissTropicals.com, which they're like the Jesus of a lot of fish farms buy their stuff because you go to their website and it's totally geeky. You can choose all kinds of crazy foams. I'm in heaven there. But I wish someone would manufacture this filter, the sponge filter, for cheaper, because they're not that expensive, let's be honest. Because I can buy all the same guts to this sponge filter. I can buy this entire sponge filter, even the taller one, for like $6 on Wish or eBay. And I just wish that, you know, the guts aren't expensive, and neither is the foam pad. The company that's making these is making a killing, because $15 versus what they're making it for, let's be honest, there's a lot of markup there. And Corey from Aquarium Co-op has been talking about, he's in the making of creating a sponge filter, because if you think about it, I'm hoping that it's very similar to the Hydro sponge filter, and he has his name on it, because he can make a lot of money by doing that. And if it was just cheaper than the Hydro ones, that's it. Cost Effective says, do they have the coarse one in a bigger size? I don't think they have any larger than this. You know, like, it's funny because you can get high density, the polishing ones that are like the size of a 5-gallon bucket. I don't understand it. Whereas it's the padding is too porous to allow that much water to, like, because once the outer shell is clogged, you're not intaking anything else, because it's a polishing pad essentially. I'm done saying essentially. Blake's Aquatics says, I found that high flow sponges caused more bacteria blooms, so I run each high flow and medium. I find I get clearer water and good bacteria colony. Yeah, what happens, I think, when people run the high flow ones, is they have a large portion of their cycle stuck in here. And you gotta be careful, because, like, I just set up a friend's 60-gallon aquarium, and I used one of these. It was the sole filter for the entire tank. And it's got a couple cichlids in there. And if he screws up the sponge filter, your cycle, you're gonna get some crazy blooms, you're gonna get some up and down, some sick fish. You gotta be careful. So maybe you run both of them. You could always run both, like we never talked about that. You could run the polishing and the high flow, and only clean one of them on a monthly basis, because if you squeeze out this one kind of holds together the entire cycle. A lot of people don't think of that. Hunter posted a link to the product. Thank you, thank you, Hunter. I've been talking so much now, then it's really hard to talk a lot about particular pronunciations. It is what it is. Biersky says, hey Palmer, sorry I missed your live stream yesterday. Damn car show. Hey man, cars are cool too, I gotta admit. I'm getting out of cars more and more every day, but I'll still always have a huge passion for cars as a man. Is it possible to double stack 2 of the $6 ones? I don't think I would, because what happens is when you see this adapter at the top, this really helps conceal the water flow to go through here. And I've learned that because I've tried that DIY. When you double stack sponges together, what happens is a lot of the water pressure sneaks in between the pads, because there's less friction or less pressure, because gravity is gonna guys, I'm not a scientist. I'm just trying to describe this. Water is going to, when it's being sucked, it's going to go through the area where there's the least amount of resistance. And when you have 2 filter pads stacked, that little gap there, that's going to go through the least resistance, and you need the water to go through the pad to have filtration. Okay. The side right says, what do you think? They should make a sponge filter where the outer layer is high flow, but the inner layer is polishing. Yeah, the inner layer. How would you... Yeah, that would be a good idea, actually. You're onto something, dude. A lot, what am I trying to think of? The Marineland canister, internal canister, is kind of like that. I wish I had that. It's like, here, this will be a visualization. The outside layer is a more dense porous foam, and the inside you can put high density, and then you have the ceramics. You can kind of design what goes on the inside. That is what a lot of canister filters are based off, and that would be a great idea for a sponge filter. Yeah, that is actually a really good idea, the side of right. It's brilliant. You could maybe DIY it and sell it to companies, because all you would need to do is find a large sponge that's high flow, and then somehow cut out the inside, cut out the internal, and then somehow cut out the outside of the less porous polishing sponge, and then put it as an insert inside it. That's brilliant. These manufacturers need to listen to the hobbyists, but it's not happening. Corey talks about it all the time. These companies don't want to work with him. He knows how to design this stuff, but it takes so much money to get it on the market. I feel like a genius now. Yeah, I'm gonna give you full credit on that one, dude. That is you really got my brain moving now. The hamster is in the wheel. That's the pattern I use for my hang-on backs. Yes, essentially that's the best route. So wrap a pad around a polishing. You could buy the thinner padding, and then you could wrap it. Get the tall one, of course, and then wrap it around it, and then use zip ties. It's not the most effective, and then wrap it around it. And you could even get real special with it, and you could put carbon in between the two or something. There's a lot of things you could do, and essentially you're building an internal canister, because at the end of the day, people don't like the look of this in their filter, or in their tank, and the bigger you make it and gaudier it looks, the more room it takes up. But I think another argument to that is internal canisters do so well is because people are afraid of flooding their apartments and housing, and that's where sponge filters could also, people underestimate the power of sponge filters, and that's why they go with an internal canister, whereas a sponge filter might be able to do the same, or you could add multiple ones. Nothing looks worse than a big internal canister like the Marineland Magnum, I think it's called. Yeah, Magnum. Looking at the side of the tank, I don't like the look of it, but I don't also like the look of the sponge filters. Also, one more thing before we go. We're at the 45-minute mark. Sometimes the sponge filters, this happens, and they tip on their side, and then all of a sudden you have airflow seeping out the side. I gotta say that that's probably not that effective, and I always try to put that tube back together because water's sucking through that outlet tube, and it needs to suck through there. If it's getting lost right there, it might not be pushing water through that sponge, you know what I mean? All right. Ooh, it's 10 o'clock here. It's 10 o'clock here. Geez, Saturday night. Guess I won't be watching a movie with my wife. Okay. Depends on the sponge filter tank size and what you call average stocking. Yes. I don't know, just an average community stocking. Let's say I had a 75. Once you're off your timeout, don't call people poor, especially because you choose to watch the stream on poor filters. I don't know what you're talking about, Naturally Low Cheat. I didn't call anyone poor, did I? Oh, maybe someone got booted and they were calling someone poor for buying a sponge filter because they couldn't afford a regular filter. I don't know. So you have a 200 amp electrical panel running to all of those tanks. Electrical panels. I think it's you that keeps asking me about this, or maybe multiple people are. Which there's a formula that you need to figure out. What you do, this is a whole live stream in itself, but I'm gonna give you the short answer on how to figure out how much power how much power might be overloading your fuse box panel. What you do is you add up I'm trying to think of how to say this. Amps times wattage is going to depict what size breaker you have. You know what I mean? So you're gonna have to figure out that formula. It gets really complicated. What happens a lot of times is the breaker or fuse box lets you know by one of your breakers pops. That means you need to upgrade and jump into another breaker, and it sucks running more lines. That's where sponge filters, this is a good segue into sponge filters. That was happening to me, and especially with the dehumidifier and the heater and a bunch of sponge filters, because sponge filters, depending on the sponge filter, use a lot more power than sponge filter, or canisters and hang on the backs use more power than sponge filters. I can run 4 high flow sponge filters that is extremely powerful for 6 watts. This pump uses 6 watts of energy non-stop. Look at your canister filter and let me know how much power it says on the side of it, how many watts you're using, and add up how many high flow sponge filters you could be using in placement of that. And you might second guess the idea of not wanting to use sponge filters because they're energy efficient. They look 35 watts sun, says Bierski. Yes, so 35 watts, I could use 5 of these air pumps, 5 times 4, that's 20 sponge filters I could use in a tank, whereas for your canister. And yes, we don't know, people love canister filters and hang on the backs because they give you a rate at which how many gallons per hour, and people obsess with that. I do understand that. And people don't really know how many gallons per hour these are. But once your tank is established and you start trialing these, you're going to find them very effective, I promise you. And I'm gonna throw a link in the description, guys. Buy one of these and try it. That's the only way it sold me, because I don't know, it is what it is. I love them. And that's right? 35 watts of sun canister filter energy, 6 watts per one of these. That is 6 times 5. 6 times 5 is 35. Yeah. So I could use 5 pumps, and there's 4 outlets on this one. Yeah, 6 watts. So that is 5 times 4. That's 20 sponge filters I could run. Let me go hunt down the link for Chris's sponge filters. I threw it in the chat once already, I think. I can't remember. But yeah, here, I'll throw in the link here. It'll take me a second. We're working our way out right now. There's 86 people watching. Let me know what you think of sponge filters. If you've been thinking about using them or you use them, what kind do you use? Have you had good luck with the polishing ones? They're cheaper. 6 times 5, 30. Yes, but that's in comparison to 30 watts. It was just rough math. I'm not good at math. I'm gonna admit that. All right, let me find this sponge filter. I'm gonna search it. Once you go sponges, you never go back. Yeah, that was my question. How many gallons will single sponge filter support on an average community aquarium that is not fed heavily? Yeah, see, that's the question, and I can't answer it because if I put my neck out there and say, yeah, this is how many gallons per hour. If I were to compare this sponge filter, this is my opinion due to experience. I would compare one of these to a Fluval 50 or 70, which is pretty dang powerful for one sponge filter that's using 1.6 watts of energy, or 1.4, or yeah, 1.35, I think, technically. That is not, I would like to know the comparison of this to an AquaClear 50 energy consumption, because this is like 1.35 or around that versus what the AquaClear is. And sponge filter, where are you? Here it is. Copy, paste. And by the way, this is my other channel. I always stream in my other channel. I ditched this channel, but I always stream in here because I like to watch it as on a different channel, because when you watch the stream in your own channel, it looks completely different. You have all the admin stuff going on and it's not live. I like to have the live feed going on, you know what I mean? Okay, so sponge filters are better bang for your buck over a canister. They are. But you're gonna have to use a lot of them if you have heavy filtration. Like I said, I use 4 of them in my 6-foot tanks, and I'm doing water changes once a week. And what I do when I have 4 of them is I will squeeze them out, 2 of them when I do a water change at a time. That way I don't destroy the cycle. Can I go sponge filters all the way and not use other filter systems on a 55? You sure can, fella. Sorry, I shouldn't say fella. You could be a lady. Sorry. For some reason, I tend to talk to 80% of my subs are men, I find, and I get so used to it. So it's I should get out of that habit though, because it's not. He says I'm a dude. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I shouldn't get used to that. I'm not sexually prejudiced, or there's no prejudice here. Sexism. I'm setting up a 75 at the moment, but have ideas on a 20 long, a 20 or a 29 long. I don't think, are there 29 longs? I think you're thinking of the 29 talls, or just the 29 in itself. It's 36 by 12 by 18 tall. It's a pretty tall tank. It's a weird tank, and I have a bunch of them myself. Or maybe you're thinking of a 30 long. That's 36. I don't know. What is the difference between a high flow and the normal sponge filter, says Mark? Yes, you should probably rewatch this video. But Caleb Aquatics says, where's the link? It is above. Palmer Fish, my other channel, I posted it. Here, I'll post it again. I'll troll the chat here. The main difference is this is a polishing, higher density. It has more pores per inch, meaning less water flow. And this gets a higher water flow, and there's less pores per inch, meaning the water is going to flow through the medium. I'm going to call this a medium because it's essentially a surface, and that's how filtration works. Look at the veins popping out my neck. And you're going to get much more flow rate through this, and it's going to not clog when you hit certain particulates in your water. It's going to clog this at a faster rate, and it works great for polishing and making your water extra crystal clear. But as a general filtration on an average tank, it's way less effective. And this, I'm gonna call it the Beast. I've been calling it the Beast all night, and I love these things. I should just sleep on this tonight as a pillow. Ugh, it's dripping on me. Look at my shirt, dude. It's just dripping all over me. My laptop is soaked. This is what I do for you guys. I'm destroying my environment. Naturally, Locha says, I'm gonna go. I think it's kind of late. Sorry, Palmer. It's totally fine, dude. I know you're younger. I think you're 14. That's totally fine. It's 10 o'clock. I shouldn't even be up right now. I gotta get up with my daughter at 6:30 a.m. She gets up at every single day. There's no and, if, or buts. Some of you guys don't have kids and you're planning on sleeping in. Once you have a kid, you're not sleeping in anymore, bro. That's where it's at. never again. Every single day I'm up, and you get used to it, and it's better for yourself. I feel like I feel more effective. It's and sometimes I stay up till 2 in the morning and I get up at 6, and that's your own fault. uh, Palmer's done preaching here. It's 11 where I'm at. Yeah, it's only 10 here. I'm probably gonna go chill out, sit on my phone, hit up the messages, moderate the channel a little bit, just kind of hang out. My wife's probably deep in a sleep. All right, guys, let me know. Again, I've said this like 20 times, but let me know in the chat, not in the chat, in the comment section after this video, if you're gonna give this sponge filter a try. Let me know, and if you try it, hit me up 6 months later and let me know what you think, because these things are super effective, and it is what it is. Like, I've called this the beast all night for a reason, and I know a lot of people on the predator side know about these, because when you're keeping big tanks, you're looking at cheap filtration. IFG 1999 super chat, thank you, sir. Everyone's saying IFG Nation. But yes, sponge filters, it's give it a try and let me know. Like, these things are super effective. I absolutely love them. The polishing pads are like the go-to, but I don't know why. Like, I wish I could never use any of these again. And I honestly, I hate these things. If I'm being completely honest, I hate them, because it's like, what's a good comparison? If you know, like your first car, you were so happy with, you're like, oh, I got my first car, and then it's a piece of crap, and maybe you like upgraded, and that first day you get your new car and you're like, that old car's a piece of crap, like bring that thing to the crusher, you know what I mean? And that's what these are to me. These sponge filters, like, get rid of them. I'm over it. They worked great at the beginning, and I don't know, maybe I'm overanalyzing it, and it's they can still be effective, especially in fry tanks. Like I said, in my 20-gallon tanks, I run these. They're cheaper. They still do what they do. But if I could have these even in the small tanks, I would. Sorry, guys. Add a turbo. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for visiting the chat. Give this video a like, thumbs up. I'll probably be doing some live streaming tomorrow. I'm going to get out some videos. I have a video and some videos in the editing process on the red arowana and a lot of cool stuff. If you have videos that I haven't done species spotlights on, message me on Facebook. You can search Palmer Fish. Chris Weber comes up, and just message me. I'm gonna try to get in the shop, do some updates, and it is what it is. Hunter says goldfish are better than cars any day. Yes, I love fish more than cars now. As a family man, as you get, like, I'm into my 30s now, and it's you get past cars, because will I ever drive a minivan? No, I will never own a minivan, but I can understand the ease of it. The kids can get in there, they can watch their little TVs. I understand the struggle now with kids, and your children become your life. I'm here ranting again. All right, guys. Reptile Lover says, don't go, quick smash the like button. Cars, fish, motorcycles, says Jesse. Yes, motorcycles are really cool. Don't get me down that. Like, I get addicted to things really easily, and fish keeping, I need to just have fish keeping as my sole hobby, because, you know, I had this big shop on my property, and I wasn't using it. I've had it all. I've had go-karts, four-wheelers, all kinds of cool stuff, cars. I still have my old Mercedes project car. You guys probably saw it in videos. I'm thinking about selling it this spring, because even though I love the car, it could be money put at the fish gallery, the fish store, what have you, and it's, you know, I could probably get like $2,000 for it, and I need to buy a furnace, and there's a lot of things that need to be bought, and that's kind of like what's battling me with all the setup. There's all the industrial shelving and lots of stuff, and that is a good segue into, if you want to donate to my Patreon, become a patron. I would very much appreciate it. There's a bunch of people that are donating. I really appreciate it. I promise you, this spring we're going to be doing crazy things, and I'm excited. The King of DIY was here the other night. I'm just getting jacked up. IFG's in the house. I'm excited. Like, I love it. I'm gonna be over on JH Aquatics channel within the next couple weeks. We keep trying to work it out. I'm babbling. Chargers have back seats too, yeah. All right, guys, back on topic. I'm exhausted. Sponge filters, let me know what you think about them in the chat. We hit the hour mark. It's literally 6 seconds away. Tick, tick, tick. We hit an hour talking about sponge filters. That's bananas. I can't believe I was gonna go that long. I thought it'd maybe be like 20 minutes. It is what it is. All right, guys. I love you.